Hello everyone, welcome to our discussion of our practice having to do with these long-term assets and how we use our present value, future value tools that we learned about last week to these particular asset situations and see what the impairment or what we might have in terms of what their fair value that should be recorded on the balance sheet should be. So the first problem, if we look at, is a loan. We're the bank. We made this loan, and they've made several payments, 34 payments, I think, total, if you count them up. Okay, but now they've gone several months without making a payment, and so they're in difficult. The customer's in difficult situation. The loan looks to be impaired. We're willing to start negotiating different terms. And as mentioned in the material, whenever a loan is changed, any of the terms are changed, it is always to the detriment of the bank. Legally, they will never have the customer owing more money. That will never happen. But the bank can accept less money, and that's what we're negotiating here in the problem one. They're considering this scenario. The customer has made the suggestion that instead of making the payments that they have been making, that they could make the payments of $3,000 a month. So first, what we want to do, okay, going back to Excel, is we're going to calculate the payment using the tools we learned in Excel on how to calculate that. And that formula is here. We're going to take the 10 years, we're going to divide it by 12. We multiply it by 12 to get the number of payments we're going to have to make, 120, and then we're going to take the interest rate of 5% or 0.05, divide it by 12, and this is the amount that was originally borrowed. The payment that our customer's been making all along is $5,303.28. And we made a quick amortization schedule showing each of those payments that they made starting in April, and each month they make an interest payment of $5,303.28, and this is how much interest, which is simply the 5% of that divided by 12, because it's just 1 month of interest, and the rest is principal. And what that amount reduces the balance. So we started at $500,000. Now we're down. Now we are only owed $496. So as the customer is making these payments, this is what's happening to their loan balance or our loan receivable, our asset. So after 34 payments, fast forward to 2024, where we're talking about the difficulty financially that this customer is having, they owe us $382,649 after they made that 34th payment. So we had to make these calculations each month all the way up to January of 2024, where they owe us this much. Now, it's been another 8 months and they haven't made any payments. During that time, what's happened is the interest has continued to accrue. Okay, we're still charging interest. That's what had happened with any loan. The loan would continue to earn interest. And so really what the customer owes by the time we're talking about making and negotiating the new terms, $393,810. That's the additional 7 months of interest from January through the beginning of August. So that's the $382,649 that they owed plus the extra interest that since the last time they made a payment. So now we need to take and figure out, if we go with this $3,000 payment option, what is our fair value of this loan? What is it really worth? What is it bringing in? It's not worth $393,810 anymore. That's what we show as a note receivable. But we know that it is impaired. It's going to bring in less than that because if we go ahead with the negotiation, and we're fearful that we won't get anything if we insist on the full payment. And they may file bankruptcy or something like that. So here is how we calculate. We take the present value that we learned about. We use the existing interest rate on the loan, the 5%. Not any, no new interest rate is not considered in figuring out the fair value of the loan. And then and that's going to be for 10 more years. So not only are they reducing the payment, they're going to make it go out further because they've already paid for a couple years and they only started with 10 years, right? So they should really be paying for 8 years. But this is going to extend it out another 10 years and they're going to pay $3,000. So we figure the present value of that, that's $282. Notice it's negative because that is how Excel figures that when you put a positive payment. If you don't like the negative, you can put a minus sign in there on any one of the things, well, the 3,000, or in front of the PV, and it will turn it to a regular number and not a negative. Okay. Now we compare that to what we show on our balance, what we say is owed to us, and you can see that we are going to get $110, almost $111,000 less than what we thought we were going to get based on the original terms of the loan. So that means our loss is going to be $110,966. We're going to debit loss, credit, note receivable. And then when we do receive the payments, okay, we're going to record the payments as if the interest rate is 5%, because that's what we used, right? And that's what the original loan terms were. So even though they're paying less money, we still use the old interest rate. And so each payment of $3,000 is split into interest and principal. Then there's the amount that they owe goes down. They pay a little less interest and a little more principal. So that answers the question for all those first two payments. Now, the reverse scenario is that the customer comes back with, see, this was the bank's idea, $3,000. The customer, or maybe no, that was the customer's idea, $3,000. This is the bank's idea. Okay, what if you could do a little different? What if we just modified the interest rate to 3%? Okay. And so that would be, if we figure out, and we could still go out 10 more years, so we still extend it out. If you take the amount that they owe, the $393, and you figure out the payment on that at 3% interest, that's only $36.59. So it's not as low as the $3,000 that the customer proposed, but it's still considerably lower than the $5,300 that we were currently receiving or supposed to be receiving. Okay, and so that's what the new payment would be, going out 10 more years. With that, we calculate the present value of that, still going back to the 5%, because even though they're paying 3%, we should have received 5%. All the fair value is going to be compared to the 5%. So we use the 5%, divide by 12, 120 payments out 10 more years, okay? And it's the amount that we show we owe the $393, or they owed us, okay? And when we do that present value, we get $344. Notice that is a little better than the $282, okay? Because we're suggesting that the customer pay a little bit more, right, per payment. And so the loss is only $48, the difference between $393 that we show that they owe us and the $343, the fair value of what we're going to receive in the future, because the loan value is always the present value of future cash flows, and that's what this is, the present value of the future cash flows. So loss of 48,000. We record that debit loss, credit, note receivable, and then when we receive the payments, even though that they think of it as paying 3%, we still record the interest at 5%. So we always treat it as 5% through the whole process. All right, on the bank side, because that's what we should be receiving. That's what the market rate is. And so we do that, and we calculate the amount of interest, and principal reduces the principal. So we pay a little, they pay a little less interest and a little more principal the next payment, and that would go on and on, similar to what we did here with the amortization schedule. We'd have a new amortization schedule showing each payment and how much was principal and how much was interest.